Democracy relies on majority rule, but a system driven by the majority creates a risk. Smaller groups can easily be outvoted, ignored, and eventually assimilated into the dominant culture. The text of the preamble to the Indian Constitution counters this risk through the principles of secularism and fraternity. These concepts provide the legal foundation for protecting minority rights. In August 1947, India was partitioned along religious lines. This massive demographic shift meant the new nation needed to offer immediate, concrete reassurance to its minority populations that their distinct identities were safe. The Constituent Assembly designed a legal firewall to prevent that cultural assimilation. They built this defense using two specific constitutional provisions. Article 29 acts as a legal shield to protect cultural identity, while Article 30 builds the physical, institutional fortress to house and propagate it. We will analyze the legal mechanics of both articles, the four landmark Supreme Court cases that define their limits, and the technical distinctions required for civil service examinations. The integrity of India's democracy rests on the security it offers to the distinct identities of its most vulnerable groups. We begin with the bare text of Article 29, specifically Clause 1, detailing the protection of minority interests. The protection here is limited to three parameters. A section of citizens must have a distinct language, script, or culture of its own to claim the right to conserve it. Note the specific phrasing. Because Clause 1 grants this right to any section of the citizens, the protection applies to the majority just as much as minorities. Clause 2 then prohibits state-aided institutions from denying admission based only on religion, race, caste, or language. These two constitutional clauses serve different functions. Clause 1 guarantees a collective, group right to conserve a culture, while Clause 2 guarantees an individual right to a citizen, preventing discriminatory exclusion from state-aided schools. While Article 29 provides a legal shield for cultural identity, cultural preservation requires the physical infrastructure to pass that identity to the next generation. Article 30 addresses this need. Clause 1 guarantees the right to establish and administer educational institutions. The beneficiaries here are more specific than in Article 29. Article 30 applies exclusively to religious and linguistic minorities. The word cultural is absent from this provision. The 44th Amendment in 1978 added Clause 1A. This ensures that if the state acquires the property of a minority institution, the compensation paid must be sufficient to ensure their right to exist remains meaningful. Furthermore, Clause 2 dictates that the state cannot discriminate against minority-managed institutions when distributing educational financial aid. Article 30 grants specific minorities the independent machinery required to govern their own educational future. Minority educational institutions fall into three tiers: those seeking both state aid and recognition, those seeking only recognition, and those seeking neither. An inverse legal correlation exists here. Accepting more financial aid or recognition means surrendering more autonomy to state regulation. This introduces the maladministration barrier. The right to administer an institution excludes the right to mismanage it or exploit staff and students. The state retains the authority to enforce laws regarding academic excellence, public order, morality, health, and sanitation across all institutions. Institutional independence exists to foster minority education, but the state maintains the ultimate veto to prevent academic and administrative exploitation. The Supreme Court serves as the final arbiter when minority independence conflicts with state regulation. In the 1974 St. Xavier's College case, the court established that the constitutional right to administer is separate from the right to maladminister. The 2002 TMA Pi Foundation case resolved a jurisdictional question, ruling that minority status must be determined at the state level based on local population data rather than national statistics. In 2003, the Islamic Academy case addressed the commercialization of education, permitting state governments to establish fee fixation committees to prevent profiteering in professional minority colleges. The 2005 PA Inamdar case provided a shield for unaided institutions, ruling that the state cannot impose its own reservation policies on minority professional colleges that do not receive state funding. The Supreme Court acts as a constitutional thermostat, adjusting precedents to prevent both state overreach and private profiteering. Despite these rulings, the Constitution of India nowhere defines the word minority. Under the National Commission for Minorities Act, the central government uses statutory power to notify specific communities as minorities. 6 religious communities currently hold this status. This lack of a constitutional definition creates friction. In Punjab, institutions tied to the Arya Samaj, a sect of the majority Hindu religion, have sought minority status to secure the protections of Article 30. Because the drafters left the definition blank, the legal parameters of who qualifies as a minority will evolve alongside India's shifting demographics. We now move into the high-level technical precision and critical distinctions that are absolutely required for success in the examination. This comparison table highlights the specific functional differences between the articles, focus on the distinct beneficiaries and legal scope. A critical distinction exists. Article 29 applies to any section of citizens, while Article 30 is restricted to minorities. For Article 29, the mnemonic LSC represents the protected categories: language, script, and culture. For Article 30, the mnemonic RELM represents religious and linguistic minorities. Success in the civil services exam depends on identifying the precise boundaries where these two articles diverge. Note the absence of the word cultural in Article 30. Its inclusion in an exam statement regarding institutional rights makes that statement legally inaccurate. Similarly, any claim that the Constitution provides a definition for the term minority is false and should be marked as such. We will now test these distinctions against common question formats. In this first question, Statement 1 is incorrect because Article 29 applies to any section of citizens, not just minorities. Based on the TMA Pi ruling, if asked how minority status is determined, the answer is at the state level. Finally, regarding reservation policies in unaided colleges, the correct precedent is the PA Inamdar case. Recognizing these precise constitutional exceptions is your best defense against complex question phrasing. Article 29 gives any section of citizens the right to conserve their distinct language, script, or culture. Article 30 gives religious and linguistic minorities the right to establish and administer educational institutions. Both are subject to state regulation against maladministration. Article 29 protects the identity. Article 30 provides the institutional machinery. This analysis was prepared by New Careers Academy, Chandigarh. Since 1967, we've trained 3 generations of officer for the NDA, CDS, AFCAT, CAPF, and SSB. This knowledge provides the legal framework for the republic you will eventually serve.